Welcome back to the Thursday installment of Hot Stove, presented all week once again by the United States Marine Corps. And all week once again, JP Morosi leads the league and joins us from the Pacific Rim, coming to us having just watched a Premier 12 game where the U.S. didn't really hold up. Japan winning 9-1. JP, this game is still freshly on your mind. Tell us what happened tonight.
Yes, ended about an hour ago, and good morning, Matt and Dempy. Great to be with both of you. I'll start with the first 4 innings of this 9-1 loss for the U.S. because that was the best part of it. We saw tonight Rich Hill, at 44 years of age, shut out the number 1 team in the world. That's Team Japan. Shut them out on 1 hit, 5 strikeouts. There are Major League scouts all over the building tonight at the Tokyo Dome, and they saw one thing, that Rich Hill at 44 can still pitch in the big leagues. And he told me this week, I would like to pitch in 2025. And based on what we saw tonight, he should be able to do that. It's an amazing story. He had his son, Bryce, with him to be able to watch his dad pitch, represent his country. So an amazing night for the Hill family from that standpoint. The rest of the night, though, obviously went to the advantage of Team Japan. And I'll give you one more name, Hiroto Takahashi. He pitched 4 innings, too. He struck out 8 Americans. Look at that fastball at 95. He also throws guys a 91 mile-an-hour splitter. That was almost unhittable. 6 strikeouts on the splitter alone. Here was a bright moment for the U.S. Colby Thomas, an athletics prospect, homering to left field. That put the U.S. ahead 1-0, but this became known as the Kaito Kazono game. Number 24, he's 24 years of age. He wears 51. He had 7 RBI tonight. Yes, 7 RBI, a triple, and 2 homers. Have a night. And when you wear number 51 for Samurai Japan, it is much to the delight of the great fans at the Tokyo Dome. Check that out. It's like watching the Cameron Crazy. They stand up, sit down. This is just singing songs during the game itself. To anybody who's never been to a game at the Tokyo Dome, especially when Samurai Japan is playing, I request that you do it because it is a bucket list item for any sports fan. The singing, the horns, it was all in full effect. Japan wins 9-1. And again, Kaito Kazono, they don't just give out jersey number 51 for Samurai Japan. That's Ichiro's number. That's Seiya Suzuki's number, and he won the tournament most outstanding player in this exact event 5 years ago. That was his sort of coming out party before the Cubs signed him. So you wear 51 for Samurai Japan, you're on the international radar. And when you get 7 RBI, you certainly are on the international radar. So remember that name, Kaito Kazono. I suspect he'll be in MLB one day, just like Ichiro and Seiya have been.
Well, not to mention Kaito Kazono, and maybe we can side-by-side this for our Say Something segment in about an hour and a half. He got out of the box and looked a lot like Ichiro. I mean, I don't.
Yes.
That's probably not a coincidence.
No, I had the same exact thought, Matt and Dempy. Watch that unfold. That swing, that's an Ichiro swing. Look at that. Wearing number 51.
Yeah.
And that ball got out of there in a hurry. So, Matt, you are spot on. I had the same thought. Something about that 51 jersey. By the way, Shohei, of course, we're expecting he'll be the MVP in a matter of hours. No one on Samurai Japan wears 17. That is Shohei's number, even when he is not on the team.
Well, you, sir, are the busiest men in our sport in a time that many believe baseball is quiet. Not so in the Morosi household. Not only are you covering this tournament, you are still very actively pumping out episodes of your Road to Cooperstown podcast. Who is the next subject on Mike?
Matt and Dempy, how about this? I got to interview Junior. And when you interview Ken Griffey Jr., that's the one where I saw Junior on my Zoom screen. I said, really? This is going to happen? I get to talk to Junior for an hour. So the Road to Cooperstown episode with Ken Griffey Jr., we talked about a range of topics, his journey, the ups and the downs, certainly more ups than downs, but he was amazing in talking about his overall journey in the sport. And the one that I had to ask him about on the podcast was, how exactly did that conversation go when your dad joined the Mariners to play with you? Because remember, Ken Griffey Jr. had debuted in the big leagues with the Mariners before his dad signed as a free agent with the team and joined his son. So I asked Junior, how exactly did that go?
He actually called me and he said, hey, the Mariners, they want to sign me. And he said, I want to talk to you first on how you feel. And he said, I could, sign with the team or I could retire, but the decision is yours. And I was like, come on. And if you watch my trajectory of my first 3 years, hitting 264, hitting 300 and hitting 327, it's a lot of it has to do with him on being able to watch somebody who I look like and who I emulated growing up. It was the first time that I was like, I get to see him up front and he's saying the same thing. I get to watch him, but he was like, this is your team. I will be dad at home and I will be, teammate, in the clubhouse. And I tease him every now and then. I said, yeah, that's why I rode home with Mom a couple times. And he starts laughing. But he taught me a lot. Number one, how to be a pro. Even though I had, Harold Reynolds, Dave Valley, Alvin Davis, Jeffrey Leonard, Mickey Brantley, I had those guys in the locker room. It was still, I had, the guy that I grew up in his house, sitting there talking.
What a great answer from Junior. By the way, Ken Griffey Sr. played his final game at the age of 41. Junior's last game came when he was 40. And most importantly, guys, happy birthday to Junior. It's his birthday today. So, of course, born in Denora, Pennsylvania, same day and same town as Stan Musial. So you always love those connections across the Hall of Fame.
Excellent. Road to Cooperstown podcast available, the newest episode with Ken Griffey Jr. Before you go, we want to ask you about the news we learned of regarding Roki Sasaki. We take you back to the Japanese game. Sasaki was expected to be here this year, still is expected to be here this year, but we understand there are some timeline protocols in place now.
Yes, the Commissioner Rob Manfred actually spoke recently about this week, and the new news here is that Sasaki is expected to be part of the next year's international signing class, which begins on January 15th. So he's still going to be part of Major League Baseball in 2025. We just will find out much later in the offseason. And what this means, guys, is that the posting window, which can be 45 days, is likely to begin somewhere in the early part of December, such that the 45 days stretches into that January 15 window. Now, he'd be posted no later than December 15th. That's part of the rule and the player transfer rules between MLB and NPB. So I would say the posting news, which we love when this happens, is probably going to occur right around the time we're at the winter meetings, which will be good for discussion around Major League Baseball as Sasaki becomes right up there with the Soto conversation and the Corbin Burns conversation as the most coveted players. But in some ways, he's the most coveted because of the international signing bonus rules. He's going to sign for a minor league deal somewhere in the range of $3 or $4 or $5 million, which means everybody wants Roki Sasaki.
Everybody wants a piece. Yes, sir. JP, enjoy the rest of your trip. Enjoy the rest of the Premier 12 tournament. Good stuff as always. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Good to see you, pal.
Sounds great. Looking forward to it. Thank you so much. Thanks, guys.
And in fact, it gets us to talking about the MVP vote live on MLB Network tonight. 6 Eastern, the final installment of BBWAA Awards Week, and it'll happen tonight. American League and National League MVP at 6 Eastern. By the way, when Dave Parker was the MVP in the National League in 1978, it was not unanimous because Larry Boa got 3 votes that year, our friend Bo. Here are the finalists. Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, and Bobby Witt in the junior circuit. Shohei Ohtani, Francisco Lindor, and Ketel Marte in the National League. You have to put finalists together on these boards, Dempy, to make it somewhat compelling. I think the only compelling thing is that will it be a blanking once again for the 2 favorites? Is it unanimous for Ohtani and Judge?
Wow. I'm going to say it's unanimous in the American League. I think the Judge does, and I think that in the National League that Francisco Lindor gets I'm gonna set the over/under at 1.5 votes.
You think so?
I do. I think that there's people who vote and still have the opinion of which that a DH is not playing in the field, and the fact that Francisco Lindor is a shortstop, a premium shortstop. He's one stolen base away from 30-30. I mean, I just think that there's people who value that a lot. I do. Listen, Shohei Ohtani, incredible season, 50-50, historic, everything about it. You look at the WAR, this guy is a freak. You watch him play, and he looks like the MVP on the field. Like, if you didn't look at any stats and you're watching and you're live and you're like, that's the MVP of the league right there. Like, that's how it comes off his bat. I just think that there's probably a voter or two. Somebody always does that.
Well, I'll say this, that it's only happened 21 times in history, and the MVP award, this current incarnation of it, has been around since the 1930s. Only 21 times has it been a unanimous selection. That's a lot of years to happen that infrequently. But last year, both were unanimous. For the first time in history, both the American and National League MVPs won in unanimous fashion. We might have the unthinkable again this year. Back-to-back years where the MVPs have been unanimous votes.
And how about Shohei Ohtani is going to win back-to-back in the American League and the National League? Like, we can't say enough good things about this guy, like what he's able to do on the field, and it's incredible. And to do that, what he did, like, I love, by the way, he didn't just sneak in with like 50 and 50. He went 54-59.
Right.
Like, there was a part of you, I know this, where you were probably sitting there checking, like, the odds, being like, what can I lay down to win on the 60-60 here? Because it felt like he could go off for a week and all of a sudden get there too. So it's next level what we're seeing out of Shohei Ohtani, and he didn't even pitch this year.
And I believe Ohtani is the first ever player, maybe Keith Costas can fact check this for us, to win 2 MVP awards unanimously. So if that's the case, then he's the only guy that'll do it in 3 seasons unanimously, because he's gonna win it going away tonight as well. I think also, Keith, if we could go to Costi for this. In the American League, we say this a lot, but in the absence of a season like Aaron Judge's, you'd be looking at another guy as the slam dunk MVP, and that's Bobby Witt of the Royals.
Yeah, well, first of all, Matty, a little housekeeping. You are correct about Ohtani being the only 2-time unanimous winner, so 3 obviously would be the first to do that as well. But yeah, Bobby Witt Jr., you look at this guy in a vacuum. Demp was just talking about you look at somebody on the field and say that's the MVP. I think you show any baseball fan highlights of Bobby Witt and some of these numbers they put up, and they would make the reasonable assumption that he was the runaway favorite for MVP. But as we're detailing here, guys, obviously it's going to be Aaron Judge. So you look historically, who's put up this kind of season and did not come home with the MVP? How about this company he's keeping on this list, guys? Highest WAR in a non-MVP winning season. Some guys named Williams, Mugel, Gehrig, Ruth, and Mays. That's the type of season that Bobby Witt is going to come up short with in this MVP race.
Wow, that's great perspective. Great perspective. And he's coming up short because Aaron Judge had once again, a magical season. And again, the final images of Judge in 2024 were in the World Series. Just a reminder, these votes are all totaled and in before the postseason, so it's a regular season award. And it's clear there was nobody better in the American League this year than Aaron Judge.
No, and think about Aaron Judge and what he did and how terrible his April was. Like,
that's true.
He struck. What, he hit 260 with 4 in April? Like, he had a not a very good April, and then all of a sudden he scorched the baseball the rest of the season. Didn't make an error in center field until the World Series. He played great defense, all these kind of things. So played very, very good defense in center field. I don't want to say great because then BK will get on me, but I just think it's an incredible season. Again, to back up what he did last year, with this season, he's etching his place in history as one of the greatest New York Yankees of all time. It's unreal.
If you like some of the advanced stuff, his 218 WRC plus, highest all time by a right-handed batter and center fielder. I mean, we could put all these things together and blow your mind in a lot of ways, but that one I think deserves special merit. The slug was ridiculous.
What's not to like? He's tremendous.
He's tremendous. I mean, that's kind of the cliff notes of it all. And Aaron Judge is going to win the American League MVP tonight. Here's another thing, too. I would get back to the National League vote and say this. If Mookie Betts played in a full complement of games last year, and he played in only 116 because he was hurt, he would have given Shohei a run because of what he did between 3 different positions at a very high level. He would have amassed more counting numbers for sure. Mookie's season was great, interrupted by injury, and I guess we'd be talking about 2 Dodgers on that list as finalists if Mookie was healthy all year. Mookie also, ironically, and we talked about Mookie earlier today in his Dream Golf Foursome. He's got a podcast, and I think we have time to wedge this in here too. He had Walker Buehler, he had his Dodger World Series winning teammate on his podcast recently. We'll react to what they discussed. Roll it.
You saw the game unfolding, and you were like, "Oh, I may have to go in this game." So tell me, when that thought hit your mind to walking through the bullpen, how was it like? Were you going crazy? What were you doing?
For me, the first thing is, I said, what would 22 do? And 22 would be out there. And he was hurt and all that so I guess I had to do it, and that sucks. And
oh, boo-hoo. Boo-hoo. Sorry.
Last out of the World Series.
Yeah, so they're very comfortable.
You got to be careful interviewing guys after they've won a World Series, because there's a 7-day grace period where you don't know when you're going to catch full sobriety. Like there's a lot of moving parts right there.
We were clearly still in the 7 days.
Yes, that was in the 7-day window. I remember what that was like in 2013 after the parade. We did in Boston. I took the duck boat around, downtown, and then we went through the Charles River, and I had the trophy on the duck boat at the rivers, which was great because I get the trophy the whole time. So you can imagine we were having a good time with that salty Lamacchia. And then I got off at Fenway, and a reporter goes, "Hey, can I grab you for a second?" And I said, "Sure, why not?" This seems like a good idea. Giving me a microphone on a totally sober, normal morning on a Thursday is a bad idea. Giving it to me after a duck boat parade after you just won the World Series, it made for some interesting television.
That's awesome. Yeah. We got the MVP vote tonight. We'll see if it's unanimous for Shohei and Aaron Judge. A unanimous call. Every time I see that word, I think of Damon Wayans' Mike Tyson impression. It's a unanimous caller. Let's take a break. When we come back, a preview of a great series called Hidden Classics, which goes back and relives a memorable game in big league history. Albert hitting 3 at Wrigley. We've got a guest to talk about it next.
野球ファンの皆さん、今回のエピソードでは MLB の注目ニュースからプレミア12、そして偉大な選手たちの物語まで幅広くお届けしました。特に日本代表の素晴らしい勝利と加藤光彦選手の圧巻のパフォーマンスはまさに感動的でしたよね。試合は9対1というスコアで日本が大勝し、彼が記録した7打点、2本塁打、そしてトリプルヒットは試合の流れを完全に支配しました。この背番号51を背負う姿はまるで新たなイチローの誕生を予感させます。東京ドームでの大歓声、観客の応援歌や熱気に包まれた雰囲気も含め、野球がもたらすエンターテインメントの魅力を存分に感じさせる瞬間でした。もし東京ドームでの試合をまだ体験したことがない方がいらっしゃれば、一度訪れてみてはいかがでしょうか。スポーツファンとしてのバケットリストに必ず加えるべきです。そして MLB に戻ると、今週の最大の話題はやはり MVP レースです。アメリカンリーグでは大谷翔平選手が満票での MVP 受賞を確実視されています。この偉業が達成されれば、彼は史上初の2回連続満票 MVP という新たな歴史を刻むことになります。一方で、ナショナルリーグでは、アーロン・ジャッジ選手が再びその存在感を示し、ファンを魅了しました。彼の2024年シーズンは、センターでの守備力、打撃力、そしてチームを背負ったリーダーシップすべてが完璧でした。彼の最終的な勝利の瞬間は、私たちの記憶に長く残ることでしょう。さらに、MLB における来のスター候補として、佐々木朗希選手の名前が挙がっています。彼の登場は、MLB 全体の勢力図を大きく変える可能性があります。 国際契約のプロセスが進行中で、2025年には彼がメジャーアリーグの舞台に立つ姿を見られる日が待ち遠しいですね。このような選手の加入は、MLB 全体の競争力をさらに引き上げ、ファンにとっても新たな楽しみとなるでしょう。今回のエピソードでは、歴史的な視点も忘れていません。ケン・グリフィー・ジュニア選手とのインタビューでは、彼が父親との絆について語る場面がありました。父親であるケン・グリフィー・シニア選手が息子と同じチームでプレーした時のエピソードは、野球というスポーツがいかに人々の心をつなぐ力を持つかを改めて感じさせます。家族でありながらチームメイトという特別な関係は、スポーツの世界でも非常に稀であり、感動的な物語です。さらに、歴史的な瞬間だけでなく、現在進行型のプレミア12大会やオフシーズンの移籍市場も注目です。フアン・ソト選手やネイサン・エボルディ選手など、各チームがどのような補強を行い、来シーズンの戦力を整えるのかは、ファンとしても大いに気になるところです。各チームの動向を見ながら、次のシーズンに向けた期待が高まる瞬間でもありますね。最後に、野球が持つ文化的、国際的なつながりを忘れてはなりません。MLB と NPB の間での選手の移籍や、国際大会での交流は、野球が単なるスポーツ以上の存在であることを示しています。日本やアメリカ、さらには世界中のファンが共通の情熱でつながり、新たな物語を共有できるのは野球ならではの魅力です。さて、皆さんは今回のエピソードで取り上げたニュースやエピソードについてどう感じましたか？好きな選手や注目している移籍先、期待している折があれば、ぜひコメント欄で教えてください。また、この動画を楽しんでいただけたなら、いいねとチャンネル登録を忘れずにお願いします。私たちは最新の MLB ニュースや感動的なストーリー、そして忘れられない名場面をこれからもお届けします。一緒に野球の世界をもっと楽しみ、盛り上げていきましょう。次回もお楽しみに。